Sure, we all get that wrestling is a wild and risky sport, but one thing is clear, it's not life-ending. Still, there have been pretty rare instances where WWE wrestlers have ended up causing real-life casualties both in and out of the ring. It's not the usual scenario, but stick with us in this video as we discuss WWE wrestlers who have killed in real life.
On to this next wrestler, who was more known for being a killer than a wrestler. Juana Barraza didn't just take out one person. She was a serial killer. So, back in 1998, when a string of murders started happening in Mexico City, mainly targeting elderly women, a lot of people were freaking out, especially since many of them were older women, even grandmas. The elusive killer earned the scary nickname of the Old Lady Killer. But what really shook people up was the realization that the culprit wasn't who anyone expected, a huge figure with a passion for wrestling and muscles to match. The community's outrage grew even more intense, knowing that these murders marked Mexico's first confirmed case of serial killing. Each victim died the same way, strangled to death, their homes left in disarray, with valuables and mementos taken away. With politicians and the media breathing down their necks, the police were under immense pressure to hunt down the culprit and put an end to the gruesome crimes. Grandkids were terrified for their grandmother's safety, and patrol cars prowled the streets with sketches of the suspect, a woman, pasted on their windows. But despite the urgency, the authorities made some serious mistakes. Some innocent people got caught in the crossfire, like a nurse who got pulled out of a bank because she looked like the suspect sketch. She wasn't the culprit, but was released once they realized their mistake. Even cross-dressing prostitutes got rounded up, and a male burglar got wrongly thrown behind bars in the chaos. As time went on and the body count increased, law enforcement became convinced that the killer had to be a man. The nature of the strangulations just didn't seem like something a woman with smaller hands could pull off. In January 2006, with a staggering 47 women reportedly strangled by the Old Lady Killer, a man named Joel Lopez paid a visit to his elderly neighbor, Ana Maria de los Reyes. To his surprise, he found her door unlocked and decided to step inside. There, he came face to face with a woman wearing a red coat. She made eye contact with him before calmly leaving. But the real shock hit Lopez when he moved further into the apartment and discovered Reyes lying on the bedroom floor amidst open drawers and scattered belongings, a stethoscope wrapped around her neck. Reyes had been brutally killed. Outside, Lopez spotted the woman in red just as a police car happened to be passing by. Sensing Lopez's distress, the officers noticed the woman picking up her pace and swiftly arrested her before she could vanish into the metro station. Upon searching her, the police made some surprising discoveries. Among her belongings were receipts for renting wrestling rings, business cards from different pro wrestlers, and a keychain bearing her wrestling moniker, La Dama de Silencio. It was Juana Barraza born in rural Hidalgo, Mexico in 1957 to parents Trinidad Barraza and Justa Samperio. She had a rough childhood because her father worked as a police officer, while her mother struggled with alcoholism and worked as a sex worker. Barraza claimed that at the age of 12, her mother traded her away for a carton of beer. At that point, she found herself trapped in a sexually abusive relationship with a significantly older man. With limited literacy skills, Barraza became pregnant as a teenager and tragically lost her son to muggers wielding bats. Despite this hardship, she went on to have 3 more children, although her marital status remains unclear. Barraza's childhood experiences left deep scars, particularly her resentment towards her mother. This deep-seated dislike eventually led her to target elderly women and commit heinous acts of violence against them. Following Barraza's arrest, the case of the Mata Viejitas was officially closed despite over 30 unresolved cases. Barraza faced trial in the spring of 2008, with the prosecution alleging her involvement in as many as 40 deaths. On March 31st, she was found guilty on 16 charges, including 11 separate counts of murder and aggravated burglary. Here's where it gets confusing. Barraza confessed to just 1 killing, but the courts convicted her of 17 murders in total. Whether she actually killed 17 people is a mystery. She was handed a staggering sentence of 759 years in prison. However, since sentences in Mexican courts are typically served concurrently, and the maximum sentence allowed under Mexican law is 60 years, Barraza is expected to serve the full term behind bars. Anyway, Switching gears to Akitoshi Saito, who unfortunately killed someone in the wrestling ring. Akitoshi Saito is a Japanese pro wrestler who is known for his time in New Japan Pro Wrestling, NJPW, and Pro Wrestling Noah. Currently, he holds the title of World Heavyweight Champion at Pro Wrestling 01. In one tournament, things didn't quite go his way, with Saito only scoring a single win by defeating Takashi Iizuka via disqualification, earning just 2 points in total. Tough break, huh? On Noah's December 24th Winter Navigation Tour show, which happened to be the company's last show of the year, Saito stepped in to replace the injured Quiet Storm as Muhammad Yone's tag team partner. Originally set to be a title match against the GHC tag team champions Go Shiozaki and Maybach Taniguchi, Storm's absence turned it into a non-title bout. Unfortunately, Saito and Yone ended up on the losing side against the heavyweight tag team champs. Saito teamed up with Yone once again for another shot at the Global Tag League. Their performance in the tournament was just okay, landing them in 6th place out of 8 teams. However, they did manage to pull off a victory against GHC heavyweight champions Katsuhiko Nakajima and Masa Kitamiya on the tournament's last day, stopping their opponents from making it to the finals. Then, on July 28, 2018, Saito and Naomichi Marufuji scored a big win against the Aggression, winning the GHC Tag Team Championship. On March 31, 2024, Saito scored his first singles championship, nabbing the World Heavyweight Championship at Pro Wrestling 01 after defeating Chris Weiss. Now, onto a darker note. While it wasn't Saito's fault, a move he executed led to the tragic death of Mitsuharu Misawa, a legend in Japanese wrestling. Back in June 2009, during a tag team match for the GHC Tag Team Championships, Saito performed a backdrop on Misawa, resulting in a severe spinal injury. Sadly, Misawa passed away later that night in a local hospital. At the time, Saito had no idea that Misawa was already dealing with a serious neck injury, and that the move should never have been attempted. But because the extent of the injury wasn't communicated, the suplex went ahead, resulting in the tragic outcome. After Misawa's death, Saito understandably struggled. Fans even attempted to attack him at his home, and he was placed under suicide watch for a brief period. Let's talk about New Jack. If you're not familiar with him, do yourself a favor and check out some of his old matches. This ECW legend was all about hardcore wrestling, dishing out devastating matches with a stiff and aggressive style against anyone who was brave enough to step into the ring with him. He made a name for himself in ECW, where he gained notoriety for his fearlessness in taking dangerous bumps and his hardcore wrestling style. He wasn't afraid to push, often taking high risks and even shooting at opponents. Notably, he was involved in the infamous 1996 mass transit incident and had a memorable altercation with Gypsy Joe in 2003. New Jack was definitely one of a kind in the wrestling world. He's also famous for being the only wrestler to have his entrance music, Natural Born Killers by Ice Cube and Dr. Dre, play throughout his matches in ECW. After ECW packed up in 2001, Young continued his wrestling career on the independent circuit until he died in May 2021. Young got his start training under Ray Candy and made his debut in 1992 in the Memphis-based United States Wrestling Association. It was there that he adopted the ring name New Jack, inspired by the 1991 film New Jack City. Just 1 year later, in June 1993, he scored his first championship, the USWA World Tag Team Championship, alongside his partner, Homeboy. They held the title for 2 weeks before losing it to C.W. Bergstrom and Melvin Penrod Jr. Despite the short reign, New Jack left a mark in the USWA before moving on by the end of the summer. During an ECW live event in 1996, New Jack crossed a line. In Massachusetts, promoter Paul Heyman needed a replacement for a tag team match and ended up recruiting a 17-year-old wrestler known as Mass Transit. Despite lying about his age to get on the card, Mass Transit found himself in the ring. As the story goes, Mass Transit asked New Jack to help him bleed, and boy, did he bleed. New Jack took a scalpel to Mass Transit's head, creating a deep gash that resulted in blood pooling all over the ring mat. Mass Transit ended up needing over 50 stitches to close the wound. His family sued New Jack and ECW for multiple reasons, but the case was eventually dismissed. Sadly, Mass Transit later passed away due to complications from gastric bypass surgery, and his family believes it stemmed from the incident mentioned above. This next wrestler didn't commit murder, but the Big Boss Man definitely took out a dog, and on purpose. Back at Unforgiven 1999, WWE served up one of the worst matches ever, featuring Al Snow versus Big Boss Man in the infamous Kennel from Hell. But let's forget the awful match. Let's talk about why it even happened in the first place. The WWE's Attitude Era was possibly the best time to be a wrestling fan. However, like any golden age, there are some moments from that period that are best left in the past. Moments like this. Al Snow and the Big Boss Man had been feuding over the Hardcore title for about a month by this point. Snow won the belt from Boss Man at SummerSlam, but Boss Man reclaimed it soon after. Their rivalry escalated with back-and-forth attacks, culminating in Boss Man doing something truly terrible. He stole Al Snow's dog. Snow's dog Pepper had taken the place of the surprisingly popular mannequin head Snow used to bring to the ring. Big Boss Man then told Al Snow to come to his hotel room, promising to hand Pepper back. While that's not the worst thing a wrestler has done, what happened next definitely takes the cake. On the following episode of SmackDown, Snow went to Big Boss Man's hotel room to collect his dog, but things got much worse. Boss Man offered Snow some food, only to reveal that he had killed, cooked, and fed the dog to him. Naturally, Al Snow was horrified to learn he had eaten his own pet. After regaining the Hardcore title, Snow challenged Boss Man to a Kennel from Hell match. Sure, the Kennel from Hell match is one of those stories that sound too crazy to be true until you look it up and realize it actually happened. For those who watched it live, it was pretty haunting. This infamous match is a stark reminder that the Attitude Era wasn't perfect. Even for fans with selective memories, it's hard to defend those 12 minutes of nonsense. It's not even so bad it's good, it's just bad. So bad that it will forever be remembered for all the wrong. What do you think of WWE wrestlers who have killed someone? Let us know your thoughts in the comment section, and before you leave, don't forget to like this video and subscribe so you don't miss the next ones.